Hello there everybody, and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, your headquarters where we talk about all things entertainment, movies, television, trailer reactions, and of course movie reviews. And the film I'm about to review, I've had a good think about it. I seen it yesterday, and it's part of a much loved classic franchise that we all know and love, that I personally grew up with. It had a bit of a revival, and that film was very successful and was very heartfelt. And this is the next installment, the continuation of one generation, passing the torch on apparently to the next generation. And of course I'm talking about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, the trailer when it came out, the first one was a little bit of a teaser, and it had that nostalgia vibe. You got you got those, feels that you did in the 80s. It looked promising. And then the second trailer came out, and when the second trailer came out, it was more action-packed, and it basically showed you, like, the feels and, like, the goings-on, what was going to happen in the next chapter of the Ghostbusters. Way back when, Ivan Reitman, he directed the first Ghostbusters, and it became a massive hit. It was one of the, it's one of the most well-known action comedies in, from the 80s. Then you had Ghostbusters 2, which a lot of people weren't, some people don't think it's as good as the first one, but I personally like the second one. You had, the two big bads. You had Gozer in the first one, and then you had Vigo in the second one. And then, of course, we had the ill-fated, reimagining, reboot, female-led reboot, which I personally, thought it had an alright story, but it just felt forced upon me when it came to the comedy, when it came to, certain aspects of the movie, and that's why I feel like it didn't do as well, because it felt forced. It didn't feel organic, and, didn't feel like it came together organically. Now we're on to the Frozen Empire. Sorry, no we're not. We did Afterlife. That's right, I'm getting ahead of myself. We then had Afterlife, which for me was an amazing movie. Just like, the very first two, it was very much, had a similar vibe. It was set in a completely different location. It was set in Somerville. It, had a new, younger, fresher cast with a little splash of nostalgia, and obviously bringing in the older cast members, the older characters from the first two films near the end of the movie. And obviously it focused on the Spindler family, who, of course, Egon, who was one of the original Ghostbusters, played by Harold Ramis, who sadly passed away. It was an amazing tribute to him. It made, and Ivan Reitman, the original director and, co-creator, he passed, I don't think, not long after the release of that movie. And one thing I'll say, this movie, Frozen Empire, is dedicated to Ivan Reitman by his son Jason Reitman, who created the last one, Afterlife. So to continue on, let's get into it and talk a little bit about the Frozen Empire. So, first things first, this film is directed by the co-writer Gil Keenan. So Gil Keenan co-wrote Afterlife with Jason Reitman, and Ivan Reitman also gets a written credit on this because obviously he helped create the whole franchise. So co-creator Gil Keenan is the director of this one. Obviously in the cast you have playing Phoebe Spengler, you have McKenna Grace, who was in the first in Afterlife. Then you had Phil Wolfhard as Phil. Didn't know where that come from. Finn Wolfhard as Trevor Spengler. Paul Rudd as Gary Gruberson, who's now the boyfriend of their parent, their mother, Carrie Coon, who plays Callie Spengler. Then the newest members of the cast is Kumari Nanjani, who plays Nadeem Razmati. I probably butchered the name. I butcher all these names that are hard to pronounce. Well, hard for me to pronounce. Nadeem Razamadi, who that character has a very important part of this film. You have Patton Oswalt as Huber Watsky, who I think the bloke who is inside of the library who gives away a lot of information. Obviously, you then have a lot of the same cast members came back. You had Kelsey O'Connor, who plays Lucky Domino and Logan Kim as Podcast, who I enjoyed in this one better than I did in Afterlife. Then you have a brand new character as well who's important, Emily Allen, Alan Lind, who plays Melody, James Acosta as Dr. Lars Pinfield, and then you have Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson and Annie Potts in coming back from the original trilogy as well as Afterlife. And then also, which was a lovely surprise, I didn't even know this character or person was coming back, you also had William Arthurton as Mia Walter Peck. Walter Peck, who was, the human, villain antagonist who wanted to shut down the Ghostbusters in the first film, who at the end was completely covered in, marshmallow, melted marshmallow at the end of the first film. So he's now went from that to the mayor of New York City. So there you cast, and let's crack on with one more thing, and that is the basic plot line of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. When the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. All mysterious, all sounds, apocalyptic, and all sounds like there's going to be a full-on battle. Like the trailer looked like it was going to be one hell of a raid. And is that what we got? Unfortunately, no. That is not what we got with the Frozen Empire. It was quite disappointing for me personally in terms of how well made Afterlife was, in terms of story, nostalgia, throwback values, having the older cast come back in small cameos near the end, which was just a perfect touch. And then, of course, you had Egon's family at the forefront of the plot. And then at the end, if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler alert, you had that reunion with Ghost Egon, who had sadly perished at the beginning of Afterlife, who comes at the end to be with his family to fight the returning Gozer and the remaining of the original Ghostbusters. Now, the thing I had with this film that I found very bizarre, I felt like there was something missing, and there's a lot of things missing from this. But the first thing I will say, how this film starts, it starts off very, very promising with, a prologue about, this mystery society in New York City that collect and talk about, ancient artifacts, and there's an event that happens, and they're all frozen to death. The firefighters are shocked and are totally bewildered with what's going on and have no answers to it. And you see this orb that is just there in the hands of this woman in all this ancient gear, this mysterious ancient, tribal gear, I guess. And she's holding this orb, and then it flashes back to current day. So all of that was very well done. Then you have this massive, action-packed, sequence with all of the main characters chasing what they call the sewer dragon around the city. There's a lot of destruction goes on. And then boom, after that, the youngest member of the family, which is oh, I forgot her name already, because I'm thick. And the youngest member of the family, that is Phoebe, that was it, Phoebe Spengler. So Phoebe Spengler is suspended from being a Ghostbuster because she's underage. And they want to wait till she, has, grows up a bit, is, becomes an adult so she can continue to be a Ghostbuster. But she's adamant that she wants to remain a Ghostbuster because it's her destiny, and she's following the family lineage, the lineage that Egon set out for her. And so it's very much a story of, a girl trying to come to terms with herself. There's a lot of, like, things go on there. It's like a story about growth, about a young woman that is trying to, understand herself, and there's all these kind of elements in there, like a teen drama type element, and that's where this ghost character called Melody comes in, who kind of is a part of her plot, but I don't want to give too much away. And she bonds with this ghost, she trusts this ghost, and as you know, that doesn't always go to plan in these kind of films. So it's got a bit of teen drama-ness in this, and adolescent, stuff. You've got, the other characters in this that basically they don't do much at all in this, and the pacing in this is very slow. The trailer is probably the best part of the film. It probably shows you all of the action sequences, and that's why I think something is missing with this film. I feel as if there should have been a film prior to this one. It just feels out of place, and that's my honest opinion. Like, at the end of Afterlife, they basically find out that their grandfather is a Ghostbuster, their father is a Ghostbuster, and the next thing you know, they've now moved with no explanation to the firehouse, really, and they're now full-fledged Ghostbusters going around the city blasting things. And I found that unique, but also strange, because I thought the best way to go about this would be to have a film where it shows you them literally learning off the original Ghostbusters about the history of ghost hunting, being a Ghostbuster, and really learning and, homing your craft as a Ghostbuster. But no, bang, straight away, they know how to use the the car, they know how to use the ectopads, they know how to do all this stuff. And so, because they're already full-fledged Ghostbusters, and the main plot is about the the young girl, and how she is, struggling, or, she feels, not heard and all this stuff, and she can't do the thing she wants to do, which is the main plot of this film. Everything else becomes substitute. All of the original Ghostbusters basically don't have much to do in this film. You know, Bill Murray is literally, he's in this less than he was in Afterlife. He's basically been substituted to a cameo. Dan Aykroyd is the only original cast member from the originals and Afterlife that has a bigger and stronger part. And I really enjoyed what they did with Dan Aykroyd's character in this. He was actually, he gives some depth to the history of Ghostbusters, the history of, you know, paranormal activities and research and all of this. Winston, you know, he's now like a philanthropist, he's now rich, he's now in charge of the Ghostbusters firehouse. And of course, you have little in-betweens with Janine, who comes in and goes. And as for the rest of the newer cast members, like Finn Wolfhard's character, he is substituted to just being a whiny teenager who basically, his only plot point is he's trying to capture Slimer, which happens twice. There's twice you see that scene, which, so I just think it's just out of place. It just doesn't feel like a Ghostbuster film. It just feels like something's missing, and the plot is not how I expected it to go. There's only a handful of action in this. It's very slow paced. It takes you 3/4 of the film to get to the good bit, which is this orb which you see at the beginning of the movie, which is holding this demon character called Garaka, who has the ability to freeze you to death and create a world of a frozen wasteland. Very apocalyptic, very, very, you know, much what you expect from these kind of films. You know, once you find out the main threat, the main villain in the Ghostbusters, you then get this heaviness of, you know, we're heading into this apocalyptic situation. You know, things are getting serious. You know, the tone of the film slightly changed to a more serious tone with the hints of comedy. All the main, you know, heroes have to now suit up, man up, whatever, and be, you know, ready to take on this huge threat. I just felt like it was a waste of a character with Garaka. He has an amazing intro at the beginning of this film, and then by film's end, he's basically wasted. He's literally in it for 5-10 minutes. You know, it was such a build-up, such, you know, a tease within the trailer, especially with the title Frozen Empire. You would expect this to deliver a little bit more when it came to the actual character and the actual plot. He should have came in maybe halfway through, in the full second half of this film should have been an all-out battle against Garaka to prevent the apocalypse and the world to be frozen in fear. But that's not what we got here. We literally got what you see in the trailer, which is very, very disappointing. Like I say, this is more like a family drama movie than it is an action comedy movie. It's more about the relationship within the new family, the new Spindlers that have moved into the firehouse. All of the old Ghostbuster characters become less than cameos or substituted for this really bad, slow plot about, you know, this girl who's struggling, who's, you know, having all these, you know, issues within herself, trying to find her place in the world. You know, Paul Rudd's character, he doesn't know whether to be forceful to lay the law down or just stand back and allow, you know, the situations within the family dynamic to continue, or put his foot down and man up and prove that he's the stepfather he should be. That's all these kind of elements in this plot, other than, you know, and all of what we normally get within these plots, which is action, you know, funny comedy, great special effects, great, sequences with the ghosts, all become substituted to this mediocre plot, which is 3/3 of the film. Where it should, a film that's like only like an hour and 45 minutes long, half of this plot should have been shortened, and it should have been all about Garaka, all about the apocalypse, all about trying to stop his master plan of freezing the world in fear. And that's not what we got. And so because of that, I am disappointed. The action sequences was great. There are some characters that all stands out, and Kumali Nanjiani, who played Nadeem Razamadi, he is the best new character in this film. He was somebody who basically, he has this orb, the orb that you see in the beginning of the movie. He takes it and just sells it for $50 to Dan Aykroyd's character, who's like collecting all these spiritually energized items and then delivering them to this new Ghostbusters research facility. And he's hilarious. He's like a jack of all trades. He's like somebody who do anything to make a quick buck. He's like somebody that will find any way to make money, and he's quite a funny character. Has a great funny comedic moments that are beautifully timed in this. And he has a secret in this. He's connected to events that happen at the beginning of the movie, which I don't want to spoil, but it is thanks to, things that are discovered with this character that the end of the movie they are able to come together with the Ghostbusters and solve this frozen apocalypse. But, the pacing's off with this. The characters, the pacing's off, the story's off. It just feels like there's something missing, and I didn't have the same nostalgic vibes that I did with Afterlife. The characters, the original characters, which were hyped to have a bigger part in this, were underutilized. And overall, the film for me was a disappointment. It's not what I expected after the success in what we got with Afterlife. And like I say, it just feels like there's something missing, and it feels like this film is out of place. It feels like there should have been a film prior to this one that explains things. It just felt like they had jumped a gap. And I just, it just for me felt off. It didn't feel like it was in place. It just feels like something's missing. And I think that the plot of having more about this family dynamic, or that, you can have that in these movies, but don't let it overrun your movie and feature what we come for, the ghost battles and the action, which this lacks. There's only a little bit at the beginning of the movie, in the last, I would say, 15-20 minutes. The rest of this movie is all about this plot with the young member of the Spangler family and the other members of the family. But apart from that, it just doesn't deliver, and for me fell apart very quickly. So unfortunately, because of how I think and feel about this movie, I'm going to have to give it only 5 out of 10. Even Slimer couldn't save this for me, and that's me being honest. He has just a small cameo in and out. The ghost action in this, when there is ghost action in this, is, very far between, but when it is in, it does deliver in a lot of ways. There are hints of nostalgia, and there are hints of little nods to the past films, but I think it was a wasted opportunity. In all honesty, it was a wasted opportunity. So, unfortunately, the positives, like I say, you do get some good ghost action here and there in the film. The other major positive is the new character, which is Nadim Razamadi, played by Kumal Najani. Still probably butchering his name, but he is the best new character in this film. The older characters are wasted. The newer characters, their story really just was not for me. So 5 out of 10. So I'm sorry for those that are not happy with that score, but I need to be honest, I need to be me, and that's what I feel about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which wasn't a Frozen Empire at all, and didn't have apocalyptic feel to it, didn't feel, dread or, turmoil, or feel any of the things that I had previously had from the past Ghostbuster films and the villains in those films. Garaka had so much potential that was squandered. He really, really did. But hey ho, that's my opinion. What your opinion of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Did you enjoy it? Did you, are you all for it? What did you think of the overall story featuring all of the characters? What did you think of the newer characters? Did you think the old characters were wasted? And what did you think of Garaka as this villain? And do you think, he was underutilized and wasted? I'd like to know in the comments below. But until then, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and I'll catch you at the next one.